guys, it's me, Snape. So today we're going to be talking about the Olympics, and honestly, I feel tired just at the thought of this because the last time I personally cared about the Olympics was a very long time ago. I just feel like it doesn't have the pizzazz it once had, and maybe that is just the soul-crushing pressure of being an adult now versus when I was a kid and being like, haha, ice skating. It has been a shit show. All of it. It's been a mess. The only thing that has saved me is the people doing shooting, the Turkish guy, this man, and her. Aside from those small moments of solace, the Olympics have been disastrous in my opinion. Now, I wanted to focus on one main situation, and one thing I will address quickly because I know otherwise people will ask me. The whole situation, and I don't remember their names because again, I'm not really interested. So there was the Italian woman fighter, and then there was the intersex fighter that everyone was saying was trans, including publications, which is like, you guys had better be careful. I hope you get sued, but you better be careful. Because spewing random shit like that, especially if the agenda is transphobic, is fucked up. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Anyway, there's the intersex fighter who had elevated testosterone levels, as far as I understand. She hit the Italian too hard, the Italian started crying about it, and then the transphobia started, the fake news really started, which is the biggest crime of all, because then that led to transphobia, all this other shit. I feel like I've seen enough about that. I don't have anything to add aside from the fact of let's not run with fake news, first of all, and second of all, this one intersex athlete has been beat by other women, so we're not talking about the incredible fucking Hulk that no one can beat them, that they have this superhuman strength that makes them an immoral opponent for anyone. It all starts from nowhere and goes nowhere. The conversation is not productive in my opinion. I thought I was gonna hide my frustration well. It's not going well. Well, no, I don't apologize, but I'll try and be a little milder. What I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure you guys can guess via this being basically a pedo hunting channel, let's talk about the pedophile at the Olympics. Let's get into that. If there's any massive shit show at the Olympics, for me, that was number one. That was gold medal fucking up. Dutch child rapist greeted with boos and applause before Olympic loss. Steven van de Velde raped a 12-year-old girl in 2016. Inclusion in beach volleyball team sparked controversy. Why was he at the Olympics? Now, one thing I do want to clarify, and I'll talk more about this later, but we do need to think about the parameters the Olympics have to have in terms of criminals. And we'll get into that, but I'll just leave that little seed in your brains. A convicted child rapist competing for the Netherlands at the Paris 2024 Olympics was met with boos and some applause as he walked out for his first beach volleyball match on Sunday. Steven van de Velde, who was convicted for raping a 12-year-old girl in 2016, lost his first game with partner Matthew Immers. The beach volleyball player has been at the center of a storm in Paris after victims groups said his inclusion sent a dangerous message to rapists and would cause collateral damage to victims of sexual abuse. Boos were audible when van de Velde was introduced to the crowds at the Eiffel Tower Stadium in central Paris, but were replaced with cheers when his Dutch teammate Immers took the field of play before the match against Italy. There had been a mixture of boos and cheers as the players had entered the arena together, but when van de Velde was introduced on his own, the jeers were more pronounced. While there was some muted applause for the player, there were no cheers. Van de Velde raised his arm as he walked on the sandy court, which is directly next to the Eiffel Tower. So the Italians took the first set 22-20, the Dutch won the second 21-19, and the third set was 15-13, okay, whatever. Van de Velde, who is now 29, was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2016 after pleading guilty to raping the British girl. He had flown to England to meet her in 2014 with full knowledge of her age, having met her on Facebook. Van de Velde served 12 months in a British prison before being transferred to his home country, where he was released after a further month. So this article goes into a lot of details about the boos and applauses, and as much as I find that truly fascinating, I can move on from the clapping of your hands or not. I have so many questions as to how any of this occurs. First of all, I would like to know what the parameters are in terms of quote unquote applying to be in the Olympics. And I say applying, whatever, you understand, entering, being in consideration for being part of the Olympics. because I'm wondering where they draw the line with crimes. Because I was thinking about this, and someone told me they would rather a murderer be in the Olympics than a pedophile, which they had some valid points, to be fair. But on a serious note, I was wondering, where do we draw the line? Is someone who was arrested for armed burglary, do they get to go to the Olympics 10 years later like here? Or is there an amount of time? What are the parameters for someone to qualify in order to go? Because what I was thinking, and pardon the slight idealism, but part of the Olympics is also that you are choosing your best people, your best athletes, to go and compete for your country. So it is a representation of excellence, right? These are the people where you're like, yes, these people represent us as a nation. As much as this guy might be a good volleyball player, is this really who you want? Does this represent excellence to you? Does this moral degeneracy say, ah, yes, let's all aspire to be this guy who flew? And I'm sorry if I'm focusing on the flying, but to me that makes shit slightly more serious, because even if you tried to say, I didn't know her age, which he knew, but even if you tried to say that, or if you tried to make it seem less important than it is, when you remember that someone purchased a whole plane ticket to go to another country, knowing full well she was 12, I don't know what possible excuse or lack of knowledge or whatever you can come up with. And the other thing I was thinking was also, it depends on what type of parents you have, right? Maybe she had some laissez-faire, hands-off parents. But all of this to me screams planned. Because how many 12-year-olds do you know who can just go out and do whatever and meet up with whomever? Like, you have to plan how you're gonna meet up with this kid. They're not 16 or 18 when you can just leave the house and your parents are kind of chill. This is an elementary / middle school kid, if even middle school. So he had to really organize this to know what to tell the parents so she could get away, so they could... Just imagining that. And that's the person you want to send? Okay. Also, it's insane he served a year and then an extra month. But at this point, I don't even know why I'm surprised anymore. The boos that greeted the player are unusual at the games and were incongruous in this most spectacular of venues where crowds had earlier performed several Mexican waves and cheered as dancers entertained them between matches. 2 Dutch fans said they had bought tickets for the event a year and a half ago before the scandal blew up. Anna, who did not want to give his surname, said, I think he has had his penalty, so now he can start with a clean sheet. Incorrect. No. Did he serve his time? I guess if you think a year and a month is enough for raping a 12-year-old, sure. Regardless, for me, it's an automatic no. Because it's like, hey, you know what? What were you doing a decade ago? Ah, yes, you were meeting an underage child in order to traumatize them. This is the 2 Dutch fans, right? His friend Jesper, who also did not want to give his second name, said the case had sparked a lot of debate among Dutch people. The crime he committed is, of course, a sensitive one, he said. That's why people are also a little bit struggling, because we having conversations like, are we cheering him on or not? It's different. If it was any other Dutch person, we wouldn't even have that discussion. He added he also thought Van de Velde had served his time and should be allowed to play. You respond from emotion, which is completely correct, but we also have a legal system. So, Jesper, it's funny you bring that up, because the legal system, in my opinion, and I'm sure many others, completely fucking bungled it. In what world is a year for raping a 12-year-old girl, the legal system just thriving? Where is the legality of it all? I would love to know. People go to prison for a year for the dumbest fucking shit, and a whole ass sexual predator who attacked a child who had to go and take the day after pill. I don't know if this article mentions it, but if we do get to it, this child had to go take the day after pill, and that's how the cops were notified. And you think this child going to get the day after pill at the hospital and this motherfucker serving 1 year, that's good, we're all squared away? What planet am I on? I would like to leave. Earlier this week, the International Olympic Committee faced calls for an investigation into how the player had been allowed to compete at Paris 2024. In an email seen by The Guardian, a senior official with the Dutch Olympic Committee has insisted that Van de Velde was not a pedophile in response to a concerned British man who lives in the Netherlands. How is he not a pedophile? Can someone speak up in the comment section and explain this? Pedophiles, you guys can't talk. But people who are, I don't even know what normal is, but not pedophiles, can someone chime in? Can someone explain what I'm missing? The man had called the inclusion of Van de Velde in a team a stain on the Dutch national side. Agreed. In a reply, the Dutch Olympic Committee spokesperson wrote, Steven is not a pedophile. You really don't think that the Dutch NOC would send someone to Paris who is a real risk? No, he isn't a risk. Whether he's a risk today or not is important to evaluate, duh. But also, what happened, happened. So like him not being a risk, okay. Van de Velde is understood, have requested not to stay in the Olympic Village, and has been allowed to absent himself from post-match mixed zone interviews. Yes, there are only adults there, so it would make sense he's not interested in being there. The IOC has said that the inclusion in competition is a matter for individual nations' Olympic committees. Asked if the IOC was quote-unquote comfortable and happy with Van de Velde's involvement, its spokesperson Mark Adams said, I think to characterize it as comfortable and happy would not be correct, he added. I think a crime occurred time ago, 10 years ago, a great deal of rehabilitation has taken place, and there's very strong safeguarding in place also, and I believe the athlete in question is not even staying in the village. In a statement, the Dutch Olympic Committee said it had put in place concrete measures to ensure a safe sporting environment for all Olympics participants in light of Van de Velde's participation. It said Van de Velde had engaged with the requirements and had met stringent risk assessment thresholds and stated that there is no risk of him reoffending. The committee said Van de Velde has consistently remained transparent about the case, which he refers to as his most significant misstep of his life. He deeply regrets the consequences of his actions for those involved. He has been open about the personal transformation he has undergone as a result. It said he regretted the unforeseen renewed attention on social media in particular for those struggling with trauma from sexual offenses and transgressive behavior. I don't think my take on all of this is new. I don't think you can be cured of pedophilia. I think you can take your steps to not act on it, but I don't think you'll ever stop being a pedophile. You don't stop being the thing, you know how to manage the thing. So here, hopefully, he knows how to manage not being a sex offender. But that being said, I don't even know why this was a question. I mean, even if he were the best beach volleyball pedophile you could find, there's no one else. There's not a second best you can choose. You had to choose someone who makes you look bad, first of all, because it really does look like you're defending a pedophile, which, if we're really looking at it, you are. But aside from that, the one chance you have to represent your country in a sport, and you're gonna do this. I don't feel bad for him if he's rehabilitated, quote unquote, if he's doing better at holding in those deranged urges. Props, I guess, but for me, it's a no. He shouldn't have been allowed there. Taking security measures, I mean, okay, I guess. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Honestly, I don't think that anyone who has ever committed a crime should be banned in the Olympics because, like I said, there are different levels, right? But I do think there has to be a parameter there because just years passing, to me, doesn't mean shit. But you guys can let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.